Well, I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen as well. Okay, looks like we are a couple minutes past the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you had the opportunity to join us last week, much of the content that we're covering today is similar topics. Really, it's because we had such a high demand for individuals who wanted to join but weren't able to join last week. So we decided to reshare the same really meaningful information. Really, the goal of today's presentation is to share with the audience how we as our team are successfully landing opportunities and offers for our clients in today's job market. Most of our clients are also job seekers that are in the maybe more senior manager, director level, VP level kind of threshold in their career, and they're looking for career advancement opportunities. They're looking for ways to continue to grow professionally and just seeking opportunities in a very challenging job market. Now, what is unique and something special that we've added for today's presentation is a little bit of information about what we're actually seeing in today's job market. So, some data, just some tidbits to share with you, besides, of course, all the great takeaways that you're going to get from today's presentation around how do you position yourself in the market, how do you find opportunities, and how you communicate your story effectively. So wanting to dive right in for the sake of time, just a quick couple notes before we do. First, if you have any questions as we go through the presentation, please go ahead and drop them in the comments section because we're going to have a Q&A portion at the end. So we want to make sure we're addressing all of your questions. And second is throughout this presentation, we're going to have some polls, some questions that are going to pop up on your screen. I will read them out loud as well, so I'll make you aware. But it gives you an opportunity to kind of share with us a little bit about what you're seeing, what what you've experienced thus far within your job search. And these polls will pop up and I'll call them out. There's only 3 in the entire presentation, but would love your engagement. So let's dive right in. The first thing we're going to do is one of those polls to get you familiar with how it works. You'll see a poll pop up on your screen. The question is, where are you currently at in your job search? A, you've been applying consistently but getting little to no response. B, you're getting interviews but not converting those interviews to offers. C, you're thinking about making a move but haven't yet started your search. You haven't kicked off yet. And then D, maybe you're recently impacted by layoffs or reduction in force. So you've been terminated and right now you're just kind of trying to figure out, what do I do, right? What does this job market look like and how do I find an opportunity? I'm seeing some votes that are coming in. Getting interviews but not converting to offers. That's good insight. Yeah, unfortunately, some of us have also been impacted by some reduction in forces as well. We're seeing a lot of that, and we'll talk about that with our market insights as well. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you taking the time. I think that for each one of us, we're in a somewhat unique scenario or situation. Some things may apply more than others, but there are solutions to each of these challenges. And today's presentation is to help you kind of find some of those solutions and understand how to apply them to your search so that you can land more interviews, more offers, and really just understand how to best position yourself in today's job market. So a little bit about myself. I'm actually a career recruiter. I've been recruiting for over 10 years now, and I've done it in a few different ways. So I started my career first as an executive recruiter for a boutique firm where I helped place professionals at the executive level at Fortune 500 organizations. Then I transitioned with a Fortune 100 company that hired me internally as a corporate recruiter. I've also gone on to build out entire recruiting teams and departments for tech startups. So my recruiting experience really does span a wide range of industries and different size organizations. So I've kind of seen behind the curtain. And really, what I want to do is share with you a little bit about what happens when you leave the room, right? What conversations are being had? What are the hiring managers saying? What are they looking for? What are recruiters looking for when they're scanning your resume or interviewing you for phone screening? So that will help you understand how to communicate effectively the value that you bring to the organization and help you continue to advance through those interviews to ultimately successfully land an offer. So there are two ways that the information we're going to share with you today can be best utilized. First option is you take everything you've learned from today's session, you start applying it on your own. You will absolutely start to see some positive results. But you'll have the framework, the strategies, and a playbook to help you get started. Following today's presentation also, we're going to be offering an option for our attendees to take advantage of a free trial to see kind of what it is to work with us. And that's option 2. So if you need more of that hands-on support, maybe you're working full-time and you just don't have the amount of hours to dedicate to your search because it is a very lengthy process. I always joke that looking for a full-time job is a full-time job, but I say that from experience, right? We support a lot of our clients and it's a lot of hours to put in to make sure that you're doing all the right things, right? You're finding the right roles, you're tailoring your resume appropriately, you're doing the networking and outreach, you're preparing for interviews, and then you're executing those interviews as well. That is a time-consuming process. There are parts that we can support you with from what we call a reverse recruiting standpoint, and that's pretty much all the behind the scenes. Finding the jobs, tailoring the resumes, applying on your behalf, and even identifying who those hiring managers and recruiters can be and reaching out to them on your behalf. Tailoring every message. Again, it is a time-consuming process, but it's a really fruitful one. In today's job market, it requires all of these moving parts and pieces coming together cohesively to really land your next opportunity, especially if you're at that, more senior leadership and executive level. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the content for, actually, this is kind of the special little information that we decided to share with you guys today that is different from if you've attended last week. I wanted to share with you a little bit about what's happening in the job market, right? What are some of the changes that we're seeing? We've been in the space for a couple of years now, helping clients and finding the right opportunities for them. And the way that the organization even grew is out of a very big need. Most job seekers don't really understand how to find jobs on job boards. They don't understand which jobs are real, viable jobs versus what's just kind of junk, right? So where to put their time and efforts, what to apply to, how to use a resume that is really going to lead to results, and how to tailor that resume. So that's, again, where we come in to help out. But there are some things that you really need to understand about the job market and why it feels so difficult or challenging, why it's so competitive. So first, companies are both cutting people, right? Cutting roles, layoffs, reduction in forces, terminations. It's happening widespread and mostly at some of the larger organizations that we probably, we know and love and use every day, their products, the services. So I'm sure you've seen it. They make headlines all the time, laying people off by the tens of thousands. But ironically, they're also hiring too. But they're hiring for different roles. Obviously, a lot of organizations are considering how to leverage artificial intelligence, how to work more efficiently, where to eliminate what they consider as waste, and trying to really become more lean and trim down the size of their teams. We'll kind of see what that looks like over the next few years, but it's really put a strain on the job market. It means there's a lot more competition. There are more individuals applying to the same one position than there were about 5 years ago. So the job market, the landscape has completely shifted. And a lot of it is driven by both the layoffs or reduction in forces, and then also the hiring of different types of skill sets. So understanding where you fit within that market and how to position yourself is really key to success. Also, the job market has kind of split into two tracks. I guess the key takeaway here is you really want to understand what the hiring manager is looking for. And then, is AI relevant to the role, yes or no? And how do you position yourself as someone who knows how to use AI? If you're not already starting to learn artificial intelligence and how to use those tools within your, I guess, area of expertise, right? Whatever it is that you do for your employer, whatever value you bring. If you're not already learning how to work more efficiently, how to be more effective, how to leverage AI to save time, come up with creative solutions, and that sort of thing, it's really important that you start doing that today. I highly encourage it. Honestly, if you're doing it today, you're already a little behind the curveball, but that's okay. There's still opportunities to ramp up and get there. But just know that AI is actually your friend. It's not here to replace all your jobs. It cannot replace every role. What it's intended to be is to be just another tool that we utilize to help us work better, right? But employers want to hear that. They want to see that because those are the roles they're hiring for. The roles that are individuals who have a skill set that not everyone does, right? They need to understand how to leverage artificial intelligence to help them work better. So if they're becoming more lean, more intentional about hiring, they're going to ask questions or at the very least have an underlying expectation that you know how to use some of these tools and that you've already begun exploring or putting into practice how to use those tools effectively for the work that you do. So keep that in mind. That's really important. Also, we have seen a positive trend. There is more hiring happening. I would say a couple of years ago is when we were really at a low. You saw a lot of layoffs happening, as well as a lot of contracts for consultants not being renewed. So whether you're consulting on your own, or if you were consulting through, a large organization where you worked with them and they found you opportunities, we saw a tremendous decline in the past couple years. That's starting to pick up a little bit, which is really promising. It's a positive sign, it's a positive trend. Honestly, a lot of these trends in the job market are directly correlated with the economy, geopolitical things that are happening around us. So it's organizations just not knowing what the future holds and trying to be really intentional, maybe conservative, maybe putting off some of those projects that are not critical to the business, but that can be delayed. So always try to think through your experience, your skill set, the value that you bring. What pieces of it are really critical to an organization? Like, what could they not live without? If they don't have you in that role for the next 6 months, what impact does that have to the business? And being able to position yourself as the solution to that problem. That's really, I think, important to understand where you fit and knowing how to communicate that effectively. Also, human skills, our soft skills are kind of our biggest competitive advantage. We'll talk a little bit about this later in the slides about your narrative and your story and how to communicate that because it really is an advantage. It makes you unique. AI, no matter how good it gets, is not a human. It does not have the experiences that we have. It does not have the ability to, have a conversation with another human in a way that is, truly, I don't want to say, well, I guess I can only speak on the AI that I've personally experienced thus far. I'm sure it's continuing to evolve and improve. But as of today, where artificial intelligence stands, there's definitely room for improvement, right? There's still a lot of gaps that it does not fill. I think the human soft skill element is actually where we fill that gap. So certain things can be automated, other things so far cannot. So again, you learn to embrace the AI and just know that it has its place and we as human beings have our place and we're going to be working together to help be more well-rounded. It's not intended to completely take over and we're a far ways from that actually even becoming a real thing because AI is just not there yet. Who knows? No one can predict kind of what's going to happen once it does become more advanced. But for now, just know that you are an asset and you bring value that the AI does not. Now, I know we talked earlier about the poll where it's like, okay, some of the challenges that I've had are maybe I'm just not landing interviews, or I'm landing interviews, but I'm not getting to the offer stage, right? I'm not maybe moving forward into the final rounds of interviews, or I get to the final round and I just don't get the offer. So what's happening? Different things are happening at different stages. You might be getting frustrated because this is sometimes a lengthy search, right? And we'll talk about kind of timelines and how that's shifted in recent years. But you might be seeing people who are less qualified than you getting promoted or getting hired for roles where you're like, what? Like, I was the perfect fit there, right? Why would you hire this person who has 5 years less than I do and maybe comes from a different industry, right? So it can get a little frustrating sometimes. And obviously, if you've been in this job search for a while, you more than likely have already touched up, refined, improved your resume, and then have probably multiple copies of your resume as well, right? Because you continue to refine it based on what you're seeing from those job descriptions and what they're asking for. And that's the right move. And we'll talk a little bit about how to use AI to tailor your resume, but really you should actually have a resume for every application, believe it or not. It's not just one master resume that's going to land you all these interviews. That time has passed. Now with AI and just the level of expectation that organizations have when they're looking for talent, because they have such an inflow of applicants. You're seeing jobs posted for 24 hours with over 100 applicants. That's ridiculous. A lot of that is driven by technology and other tools that are out there that are auto applying for you, but it's more of a spray and pray method. It's really not focused, intentional. We don't do that. We are intentionally co-creating a clear strategy, a clear list of target companies that make sense within your skill set, your industries. There's alignment, right? There's a meaningful reason why we're targeting those organizations or those industries. And we're not just applying to thousands of different openings, right? Different jobs, half of which are probably not even real or viable opportunities. And I'll share with you a little bit more about how to flag those so that you're not wasting time. So if you ever start wondering, like, is the problem you? I promise it's not you. You're working within a system or an operating system that you were never really taught how to work within. And it's all kind of hidden behind the scenes. Like, if I were to ask anyone on the call today, what is your experience with an applicant tracking system? Unless you've worked in HR or recruiting, you would say, what the heck is an applicant tracking system, right? Or an ATS for short. You'll hear me reference it because we're going to talk about resumes and how they fit, and how to get yours to stand out so that recruiters see it. But just know that 9 times out of 10, if you receive a rejection, it's this system saying that you're not fit. You could have been a perfect fit. However, because you're not properly shown how to use this operating system correctly and how to match your resume to the job appropriately, right and wrong way to use AI, and we'll talk about that. Unfortunately, you're not landing the interviews, even though you were the perfect fit. Or you're landing the interviews, but then when it comes time to communicate how you fit within that company for that position right now, like today, how it fits within your career, why it's the next step for you, why it's the right move, not only for you, but for them to hire you. That's really important to be able to clearly articulate that. Don't assume that the person on the other end can connect those dots. You have to spell it out for them. So we'll get into some of that as well. We talked about the job market has changed, and I shared with you that we're going to talk a little bit about the timeline. This is a little bit of a reality check, but it's one that I think we all need to fully understand, because again, it's not you, it's the market has changed. I always think of the job market think of like the real estate market. It's a buyer's market or a seller's market. Well, today it's an employer's market, meaning they have a little more leverage, they have more options, they can negotiate better, more competitive rates or lower salaries, right? Meanwhile, when it's a candidate-driven market, which we saw right post-COVID, right when things started going up again and hiring was crazy and they're overpaying everybody, is because there was a shortage of talent pool and all these companies competing for talent, right? So there were more jobs and less candidates. Right now it's flipped. And so unfortunately, they have a little bit more leverage. Again, a lot of this is driven by major layoffs by Amazon, Intel, Microsoft. I mean, we've seen all of these just a flow of candidates coming into the market and simply not enough new positions created to balance the scales. But again, what goes up must come down. The market's constantly evolving, just like economics. The job market kind of shifts and moves along with it. So what used to be on average a 3 to 6 month search has now become a 6 to 9 month search. And furthermore, if you're looking at the very executive level or more senior, like a senior director to VP and above, you could be looking at a 12-month search, even if you're doing everything right. So it really matters. It makes a big difference when you have an organization that is supporting you from what we call a reverse recruiting standpoint by helping alleviate some of that stress and those challenges, taking them off your plate, and also helping you to position yourself appropriately in the market. A lot of what we find is we become kind of more refined over time when working together. So think of your job search as like this big target, right? You have all the different circles. And over time, as we work together and we continue to refine your search based on market feedback, what interviews landed, right? All the jobs that we applied to, which ones are you landing interviews for? Cool. Hone in the search. Let's only apply to those types of jobs. Okay, and then you're making it past the first interview, the second interview, now you're getting to the offer stage. Great. Now we know these are the specific jobs where you are clearly positioning yourself as the solution to these companies' problems. And they see you as an asset. They need you. They want you. They're going to extend an offer to you. So just know that it's not you. Sometimes it's about just understanding where you fit in the market. And that can take a little bit of time, right? So the first couple months you might be learning, you might cast a broader net and try to go for, hey, I can do this role, that role, that role. I have, interchangeable skills where they're transferable, where I can do a variety of things. I will say about 5 years ago, post-COVID, when the market was very different, it was a candidate's market and not an employer's market as it is today. They were valuing generalists, individuals who could do a wide range of things. I always joke that I am a Jill of all trades, but a master of very few. But now in this market, you need to understand what it is that you master. You need to understand where you are the biggest asset, what makes you unique that other candidates just don't have that skill set. They don't have that tool, technology, experience, right? That's actually what employers are looking for right now. They're being very intentional about hiring more specialized skills, people who are subject matter experts, really. So you need to understand what, out of all the things that you've done and all the things, the value that you bring and all the hats you can wear, what is the one that's going to position you competitively in this market? Because the market is asking for that skill set. And there aren't quite as many individuals out there that can fulfill that, but you sure do, because you happen to have that unique human element, right? This is where AI does not do its job. We as humans have different backgrounds, different experiences. We can work the same job, come from different companies and previous experiences, different educational backgrounds, and have a completely different lens, right? That's where we value diversity and collaboration and things of that nature. It's because of that human element. And you need to understand how to tell your story, what got you to where you are today in your career, and how that positions you uniquely as a value add to the organization, specifically for that company, specifically for that role. And like I said, specifically aligned with your career. Why right now? So let's dive in a little bit more about kind of the high level. We talked about, the old model's kind of broken, the old operating model of how to find a job. It used to be you just put your resume online, maybe on like Indeed or something, or put it on LinkedIn. And then you start applying on all the different job boards, right? And then you just maybe send some follow-ups to some recruiters, if that, like very little networking. And then you're not really getting very much results. Unfortunately, that doesn't work today. In today's market, that's just not going to work. So what we've done is we've kind of flipped it. The 2026 model really is about strategic positioning. Like we talked about, it starts there. You need to know how to communicate your value and your worth. And then also getting it in front of the right decision makers early and often. So when we create that target company list, when we're very intentional about saying, this is my career search strategy, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to position myself, that's what's going to lead to more results. And the networking piece is extremely important for individuals who are more senior. If you're a senior manager, director, VP, executive, C-suite, all the above, networking is like number one. So not only will you leverage your existing network, and we actually have a career coach that partners with you to tailor those messages and figure out how to approach those conversations. But furthermore, our team, beyond finding jobs and applying to them on your behalf, will actually help you identify decision makers and start doing some of that outreach on your behalf as well, trying to land you some conversations. Now you're going to have those conversations, and your coach is going to help prepare you for those. But our team will, at the very least, be helping you land those opportunities that might not be posted online. That's what they call the secret job market, right? The hidden job market. You've probably heard that terminology before, but it's not that these jobs are being posted somewhere where you can't see them. It's that they're not being posted. It's because oftentimes we don't know about, let's say there's a promotion internally, so a role's going to open up. It hasn't been posted yet, right? So timing is everything. And having those conversations and networking gets you insight into what's happening before it ever goes public. It makes you one of one candidates being considered for the role, or one of two at most, as opposed to one out of hundreds, right? And those types of conversations only happen through networking. So you need to consistently be doing that. It can be through LinkedIn. It can be if you're part of a local organization, chapter, I don't know, business affiliation. It can be that you're going to events such as I don't know, any sort of large event where you can either be a speaker, you could be a panelist, you can just be an attendee, and you're intentionally going to events where you might meet folks in the same industries, or folks who are in the same area or functional area within the business, right? So definitely try to find, and Google's a great place to search, any industry specific events coming up near you. Get in person. That FaceTime is so valuable. You can also do virtual events. Like small roundtables are really helpful because it's a smaller, more intimate group. But again, make sure that you have value that you can add to the conversation, so it's more aligned with your functional expertise or area, where it's a meaningful conversation, and you'll learn a lot as well. But those are great opportunities because you follow up and you network with those folks, and you're one of 10 people, so they know you, they heard you speak, they know what you're talking about, and they're more inclined to communicate with you and help you. I'm going to dive into our second poll now. You'll see that pop up in the screen momentarily. So our second poll, we want to know how confident you're feeling right now in the way that you're positioning yourself in the job market. So do you feel like you are clearly positioning yourself as a solution to the company's problems, or do you know where you fit in that job market? A, you're very confident. Your resume, your LinkedIn, they tell a very clear story. B, yeah, decent, but know that there might be some gaps or opportunities for improvement. C, you haven't updated anything in over a year. So you're probably new to your search and you're just like, we're not there yet, right? And that's okay too. And then D, you don't really know exactly where to start. These are for folks who probably have just gotten laid off or just decided that they want to make a change, and they're like, where do I start? So this is a great place to start, right? A great learning opportunity. I see from the polls that are coming in, most of us feel, good or confident in our resumes and our LinkedIn telling a clear story. That's great. Usually once you get this far along in your career, you're pretty well informed of who you are and the value that you bring. But I think the missing piece could sometimes be, we find this with our clients, is great, how does that fit in today's job market, right? So that's where we start to kind of pull some data and do some research to better understand, are the jobs that you're looking for available, or is it called something different? Should you be using different terminology, different keywords to position yourself appropriately? And then, of course, the narrative storytelling piece is where your coach adds so much value to help you articulate your unique journey, your career journey, and how it got you to where you are today. You're almost always going to be asked that question in an interview, right? Tell me about your career, tell me about your experience. So you need to have a really clear, transition. Like, I started here, I moved here, and now I'm doing this. But what does that matter to the role, to the company, right? Keeping it very well aligned. I'm going to dive into this is, I think, probably one of the most important slides, to be honest with you. This is the one where I really want you guys to understand that when you're in a job search, you really have to be intentional and you want to have a clear target ahead of you. You want to execute with precision. So, how do you actually do this? First, you need to ensure market alignment, which I talked about. Position yourself to showcase the value that you bring to employers, right company, right role, right timing. And all of your experience, for example, let me give you an example. If you have mostly worked for small to mid-sized organizations, great. That is very valuable. You've probably worn many hats. You've probably done a wide range of things, right? But now you're focusing your search more on like Fortune 500 companies. You want to work for, I don't know, big tech or something. That's going to be a challenging transition in today's job market, partially because we talked about those are the companies that are laying people off, and those are the companies who are being really intentional about hiring. So they're likely looking for someone who came from a similar size organization and or similar industry as well. Like big tech is hiring big tech only. Fortune 100, 500 are probably looking for people with similar background and experience. 5 years ago, that was very different. It was an opportunity to break in. But for those who didn't transition to a different industry or didn't transition to a different type of organization, whether that be size or discipline or whatever, if I have a client who comes to me and says, "Hey, I've done this for 15 years, but I want to try something completely different," I strongly advise them this is not the market for that. Just in full transparency, I have to tell you this is not the market for that. Wait a little bit, it'll change, maybe 3-5 years from now. I can't predict the future, but it's possible that you're going to have that opportunity again. When it becomes a candidate-driven market, because it's an employer-driven market, you need to know exactly where you fit and how to position yourself. So applying to industries where you have proven expertise, that's your low-hanging fruit. Applying to similar sized organizations, right? Think about in your current company today, who are the competitors? They're likely going to pick you up pretty quickly. They love hiring from their competitors. Take a look at, of course, your non-competes, non-disclosures, that could matter. But I think it's really important to know that that's where your lowest hanging fruit is. And then when looking at job postings, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but applying early and often. If you have a target company list, you should be looking at their career page every few days, like 48 to 36 hours, at least twice a week. You should be looking at their careers page to see, have they posted a new position that I can apply to, that I would qualify for? Again, our team does this for you as well. But if you're looking for jobs exclusively on LinkedIn and you're seeing jobs that have over 100 applicants or jobs that are being reposted, I don't know, every 60 days, 90 days, 30, like they're constantly being reposted, don't waste your time. Those are likely not even real job opportunities. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to catch those. There are red flags. But it's really important, like I said, to be precise and be intentional. You want to know exactly where you fit and only apply to those roles. It's quality over quantity is what the search needs to be. That's going to land you more opportunities with more calculated effort. So this precision, again, can help you reduce your time from that 6 to 9 months that we talked about, possibly down to closer to, 2 to 3 months. We have clients where we've landed them in less than 2 months. And they had been searching for months and months before that. But it was a completely different search, completely different resume, completely different, story that they're telling and communicating in the interviews. So it's really important to have a team that can build on what we've learned and success, and then apply that to your search or help you co-create your positioning and your narrative. On another note, also focusing your search on jobs that align directly with your experience and skill set. Again, we talked about transferable skills. We talked about being generalists, but being specialized, being a subject matter expert, or at least positioning yourself like as a thought leader in a specific field or industry, that's going to help you land more interviews, which will convert to more offers. And finally, consistency really beats intensity. Like I said, quality over quantity, or quality over quantity, but also making sure that you're being consistent. If you're applying to, 5 jobs this week, none the following, maybe 2 more the week after that, that's going to be tough. You want to be really intentional and set goals for yourself. Like, I'm going to do 10 applications per week at minimum. I'm going to make sure that I personalized 5 very meaningful outreach messages, and I'm going to consistently follow up. So if I don't hear back, I'm going to send a follow-up message in, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, whatever that looks like, right? It really requires discipline and a clear plan, which again is why we start with creating that career search strategy. Part of it is the networking piece and making sure that you are consistent in your outreach, but it's also setting a clear expectation of how many applications should you be submitting each week. Yes, we can help you do that, of course, but you need to be consistent and track your progress. Part of the tracking is also helpful for your mindset because, like we said, when you're in a search for a long time, you start to feel a little burned out and you start to feel like maybe you're the problem. You're not. A lengthy, challenging search can unfortunately break any and beat any of us down, right? So you need to be able to shift your mindset and understand that every no, every rejection is simply data that is being gathered around fit, timing, and positioning. Like we talked about, you're going to keep honing in on that bullseye, right? Because the target's really broad initially. You might cast a wide net, but over time, you want to continually refine it, and we can help you do that. But even if you're doing this on your own, if you're not tracking what jobs you applied to, what jobs you landed interviews for, look at those job descriptions and see, okay, according to my success, what has been working, it looks like these are the things that I need to continue to communicate and focus on. These are the jobs I need to apply for because this is where I'm actually landing, right? Otherwise, if you just continue to do the same thing week over week without taking a step back and looking at the data and seeing, okay, what am I learning? You're not going to be able to continuously improve, and that's how your search is going to go 9 to 12 months as opposed to being 3 to 6, right? So being more precise and really more intentional. So in practice, you also want to track your rejections as learning opportunities instead of just absorbing them as like personal defeats. They are not. Also celebrate the small wins and the progress that you've had, any milestones, even if it's just you've landed an interview. Awesome. It may not even be the job that you're super passionate or excited about, but use it as an opportunity to practice, right? Use it as an opportunity to refine your skills. This is going to help you build resilience, and also intentional reflection will help you overcome any of those mindset challenges. And I want you to remember you're capable of so much more than what this job market make you feel like at times. But honestly, you know your value better than anyone. You know that you add value, you make an impact. Any organization would truly be lucky to have you. It's just about finding the right organization, the right role, and they need you right now, and it makes sense for you in your career right now. So it's about finding alignment, I think, is the biggest challenge. Leveraging personal storytelling. We talked about storytelling, right? How do you position kind of your story and use it as a competitive advantage? So here's the thing. A lot of people are applying for roles that they might be qualified for on paper. But what actually differentiates you is how you tell your story. And that story can be told in 3 parts. Your journey, first and foremost, the experiences that shaped your expertise and your professional identity. That's the human piece. How did you get here, right? Why are you even in this role today? How did you end up choosing this career path of all career paths, right? Also, your value, the specific, unique problems that you solve for employers in a way that most others just can't do. They don't even know how to do that, right? Lastly, your vision, where you're headed next and why it matters to the right employer, right job, right time. So being able to clearly articulate that is going to help land with the hiring managers and recruiters. Remember, hiring managers, they're making decisions oftentimes based on how they feel in the interview. So if you're showing up to the interview already burnt out, already discouraged, already just thinking, well, why am I even doing this? They're just going to say no. That's going to show up, whether you know it or not. Like, they're going to sense it, they're going to feel it, they're going to feel that you're disengaged. They're going to feel like you're not even investing in preparing, right? You need to know that when you come into any conversation, you need to put your best foot forward. And part of that is about mindset. Part of it is about preparation and being able to clearly articulate why this company. So do your research. Why this company? Go to their careers page, learn about their values, their mission, their vision statement, right? Communicate that. Say, hey, I want to work at this company because I align with this core value. And this also stood out to me. And I see you're working on this cool project or, I don't know, new product launch. And I feel a sense of connection with that, right? It's an intrinsic motivator. That is going to land really well. And that's what's going to differentiate you from all the other people that they're talking to. Now, I want to before we go into our final poll, your resume is not a career story. I think this is where a lot of people get it wrong. And to be fair, for many years, we did do that. Our resume was pretty much bullet points of what you might see on a job description. I did this. This was my responsibility. This was my job duty. I had to work with this system to input this information, whatever, right? That is no longer the case. Your resume should really be looked at as a sales document, believe it or not. You're selling yourself in every interview, in every conversation. That's like networking is business development. I don't know how else to position it. And like we talked about, you have to be really intentional and targeted to understand who you're reaching out to, why, what are the opportunities that you're going to land. If you have a salesperson representing a company and they're trying to sell to non-decision makers, they're wasting their time, right? If they're going after the wrong types of clients that don't see the value in the product or service that they're selling, they're also not going to land very many sales. So consider this job search as a hunt for a client, and you are the product or the service, right? So your resume is your sales document. You need to be able to tell a clear story. You need to be able to clearly articulate the value that you bring. You want it to clearly say, I made this impact at this organization. We're going to talk a little bit more about KPIs and being a little bit more metrics driven. But first, I want to give you a little bit of like a high level, because we talked about the applicant tracking system, the ATS, right? And why does that matter? Like, how does that have anything to do with your resume? How does it land your interviews? The applicant tracking system is just a system that's going to parse information. So if your resume is in a format that is easy to parse, meaning it's going to pull this section and say, okay, this is the first name, last name. This is the job title. This is the company name. So if it's parsing the information correctly, your resume is pretty good for the applicant tracking system. It also helps to reduce the time that you have to copy and paste when you're doing the application. Some applications are nice enough where it just submit your resume and go. Awesome. I don't know why they're not all like that. They should be. But I think it's because they want to make sure that they're validating information, because not every resume is easy to parse. So there are some platforms that cannot parse your resume, especially if your resume is really this slide is a good example. There's boxes, there's information everywhere in different areas. This would not be easily parsable. The resume templates that we use and that we share with our clients are always applicant tracking system compliant, which makes it very easy to parse. Now, beyond that, you also need to be able to clearly articulate some of the keywords that align with the job description. I always use this example because it seems so minimal, but process improvement versus continuous process improvement. If on your resume you just have process improvement and on the job description they have continuous process improvement, add the word continuous on your resume, please. It will help you get a higher match score. After the ATS, the applicant tracking system, parses your information, it's actually comparing your resume against the job description side by side. It's scanning all the words and it's saying, hey, based on these keywords, there's this percentage match. Now, if you're matching at 85% or higher, you're more likely to end up having a recruiter looking at your resume, actually scanning with their eyeballs. Don't get me wrong, you're only going to get like 10 seconds of a recruiter scanning your resume because they have hundreds to go through, but they're not going through thousands. There's simply not enough hours in the day. So they're going to prioritize only reviewing those resumes that have the higher match scores. And tailoring your resume for every single application is how you're going to improve your score. Again, it's a time-consuming process. Now, there are ways to trim that time down a little bit. For example, using artificial intelligence to help make recommendations on keyword matching and how to, rewrite something in a way that better aligns with the job description to improve your match score. You can even ask it point blank, hey, I'm applying to this company, they use this applicant tracking system. And how do you know that? You know that from the HTTPS at the very top. Sometimes it'll say like Workday or Greenhouse, right? Those are some of the common applicant tracking systems. In some cases, you'll get that information. Sometimes you won't. But it will actually, the artificial intelligence, the AI, whether you're using ChatGPT or Claude AI or any of those, they're going to tell you, hey, you're currently at like a 65% match. Okay, cool. How do you get me to 85 or higher? And it'll make recommendations. Now, one thing I want to really call out here, the wrong way to use AI. Do not, for the love of God, please do not download the resume that it creates for you and apply with that resume. Don't ask me how, but the applicant tracking system knows that is an AI generated resume. Actually, part of it is even the recruiter knows because they look the same. Every single resume looks identical. This slide, for example, these PowerPoint slides that you've been seeing, I'm sure you've seen PowerPoint slides that look almost identical, just different color palettes. Why? Because AI helped us create them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to your resume and applying for jobs, recruiters are not expecting you to just take the shortcut. Yes, there's a time and place to use AI. Yes, it can make recommendations for you where you're actually going to maybe make a copy of your master and then copy and paste some things that it recommends you improve or change, and then ask it again. Now, what is my score, right? Our team has actually created some AI prompting, and we call it a deep thinking AI prompt that helps us create and craft a really strong, compelling resume that aligns well with that job description and gets you closer to a 90% or higher match, obviously landing you more interviews because more recruiters' eyeballs, more opportunities to interview. But we never just download the resume. It's a lot of manual, like copy paste. And then also it's a double check for you to make sure that the information it's creating is not hallucinated. It's not, it's not fake or made up. It's actually factual, because you want to make sure that you're validating the information that's coming from the AI too, whether it's your resume or anything else that you're working on. If you're using AI, that should not be the final product. In this scenario too, do not use that AI generated resume. It will get you auto disqualified, even if you're the perfect fit. You'll never get that high match score. It'll just say, this person used AI, so skip them. Some of that kind of runs into what I was talking about today with the deep thinking AI prompts, getting to 90% match. Again, there are ways to get the AI to think deeper than just, here's my master resume, here's the job description, help me match. Cool. That's like surface level. The deep thinking AI prompts are really going to get the AI to think more intentionally, which again, we want to be really intentional and precise with our search. So if this role goes unfilled for 6 months, what challenge, what problems will this pose to the employer, to the team, to the hiring manager? It's going to start asking it to think a little deeper, right? This company, this position, how the team is structured. If this role doesn't get backfilled, what happens, right? Or is this a new role that just got created because they're growing, they're going through a acquisition and merger, right? It's taking into account a lot of that information. It's doing a lot of the research for you on the back end, so it can help position you as a solution to that problem. So there's a very clear value that's being articulated in your resume, so that when you get the 10 seconds of a recruiter scanning your resume, they're seeing, oh, this person's like a great fit for this job. They're not seeing all the other things. We talked about, if you are a Jill of all trades or Jack of all trades like myself, then you might have a wide range of skill sets, lots of keywords, lots of things you can do. Your resume should only communicate how you are a fit for this role at this company. If you're talking about all the other 20 million things that you've done, all they're saying is not a fit, not a fit, not a fit. They're not going to shuffle through all the noise to find exactly what it is that they are looking for. They need to only see what it is that they're looking for. Again, kind of like selling, right? If you're a salesperson and you're listening to your potential client or prospect say, these are the problems that I have that I'm looking to solve for. And then you start selling the service or product saying, oh, well, it solves for all these things, but not being very specific about solving their unique problems or challenges. So you're not really practicing that active listening. You're not going to land that, right? The person's going to say, well, how does that help me? You didn't specifically tell me how it solves my problem. Same thing with the job search. You want to position yourself on the resume and into interviews as the solution to their problem, and you want to connect the dots for them and clearly articulate that. So if they ask you to share, like on an interview, give me an example of a time where you did X, Y, Z. Think about what that job description is saying. It's saying that they need someone who can help with process improvement, help with documentation, create new standards, create new procedures. Okay, you find an example that directly correlates and aligns with that. That's what you want to communicate to them. You don't want to give them an example that could answer the question but is not related to the job or not related to the company or a specific industry challenge that you're looking to solve or that they're looking to solve, but you can help them solve, right? So you want to be really intentional about communicating what is valuable to them, telling them what they want to hear, for lack of a better term, and then remove from your resume, omit from your responses in the interviews anything that is not relevant, because all they're hearing is not a fit. So I'm going to dive into LinkedIn, and especially at our more senior executive level, how that is really, really important. I mean, it's your public profile, it's your public resume, if we're being honest, right? It's how any and everyone can find you and determine just by glancing, right? Like, again, maybe 15, 20 seconds on your profile. They should be able to very clearly understand who you are, the value you bring, what your career progression looks like, and where you fit, right? But I get this question a lot too, is if you have one master resume, but then you have all these different variations of your resume when you're applying to each role, well, which one of them goes on your LinkedIn? Your master, but your master has to be intentionally created in a way that is targeted. Again, you can't say, I'm going to apply to these 3 or 5 different job titles. Again, job titles don't really matter in a search. Focus on keywords, focus on the value, the so what, right? The bottom line, if you will. You need to kind of reverse engineer it and say, okay, if this is a value that I add, if this is what makes me unique, as opposed to the other team members that I've worked with in the past, or I know that this is kind of the area where I am truly an expert, that's what should be clearly articulated and communicated. I actually will share with you guys really quickly on the LinkedIn profile, just some quick tips and tricks on some things that you can do that will really help you, I guess, be more intentional about using the space correctly. So first off is let's see, hopefully you can see this. Hopefully you're seeing my LinkedIn, or no, probably not. Actually, it doesn't let me share that way. Let me stop sharing and then I'll reshare. Okay, hopefully now you're seeing my LinkedIn. Okay, yes, I can see that. So a couple things. First off, your profile photo. Obviously mine's a little outdated, but you want it to be professional looking. You want to dress well. You want to have, a clear or clean background. And then you also want it to be close enough to your face that, like, if you're talking to me right now, you know that is me from my photo, right? Because people want to know who they're talking to. If you're asking someone for a coffee chat or you're asking them to give you the time of day, they really need to be able to first feel comfortable with you and have an idea of who you are, what they're getting themselves into. They're going to look at your photo and say, oh, okay, well, this is kind of who I'm expecting on the other side of the Zoom, right? Or this is the person I'm looking for if I'm going to meet them for coffee. So make sure that it is a clear headshot of you and only you. There's a place and time to put photos of your lovely family and all the other great things, but this should be a photo of you and only you, and it should be professional. If you don't have a headshot that you've maybe taken recently or paid for that looks similar, use AI headshots. There's through Canva, you can get a free AI headshot. Use it. Literally just plug in the photos that you like of yourself and tell it, hey, I want to be dressed in a blazer. I want to be dressed in a suit. I want to wear a red top. AI can create it for you, and we do that for a lot of our clients. If I showed you some of them, you wouldn't even believe that they're AI. They're so good. Now, this banner piece, I think this is probably the biggest missed opportunity when you're driving traffic back to your LinkedIn. So if you're reaching out to people, networking, doing all the right things, posting regularly, going to networking events and things like that, people are going to come find you here. They need to very quickly understand what is your background, what are the things that you do, right? Use some of those keywords that you're seeing often on the job descriptions that you're seeing, right? So how do you articulate those? And then last but certainly not least, well, actually, I'll talk about 2 things here. You want to make sure that you are clearly articulating like the different job titles, keywords, like what makes you unique. Maybe putting in some credentials, if you have some nice acronyms you can add to the end of your name. You maybe don't want all of them here, but you can add them here. But you want to make sure that it is clearly articulated that these are the things that you do really well, starting with maybe like the job title that you might be seeking. Again, we talked about job titles, they change from company to company, but what is one that is probably most consistent, right? The reason why is because if a recruiter is looking through a list of people, they're searching with keywords or whatever, and you pop up on this list, all they're going to see is a really small photo of you and then this tagline, your name and this tagline. So these are some of the things that we do for our clients. We revamp their entire LinkedIn and the About section. This is where you have your clear narrative, some KPI metrics, value that you bring, areas of expertise. So again, this is what a full professional like LinkedIn profile should look like. And you should also be able to see that we have like person is actually active. They're posting, they're liking, they're commenting. If I don't see an activity, well, this says 2 months. I don't know why. There's obviously far more activity that I've had. But if I'm not seeing that someone is active as a recruiter, I'm not going to waste an email because we pay for those. We pay to reach out to you and send you a message. And if a recruiter sends you a message on LinkedIn, please respond professionally, even if it's not the right role. That one recruiter could open up 20 other opportunities for you. So create those relationships with the recruiters because they're going to be your biggest asset and they're going to find you opportunities and bring them to you as well. I'm going to shift back to our slides here. So again, headline is not just a job title. It's not just a pitch. You really want it to be intentional. Like this is what makes me unique, not just this is the job title that I have. It shouldn't say, it's funny because I know someone personally who has like coffee enthusiast, world traveler. I'm like, that's all great for like your Facebook, not your LinkedIn. LinkedIn is about business. It's about job opportunities. It's about professionalism. And you want to put your best foot forward because you only get one opportunity at a first impression, right? LinkedIn is going to be your first impression. Let me move on for the sake of time. I know we're getting close to time here. We talked about, the job search is the one that's going to be successful, one that you can sustain. So you want to be consistent. Don't just have like a burst of activity 1 week and then go dormant for 2-3 weeks after that. That's not really going to help. Have a clear system for tracking, making sure that you're tracking both your wins and any rejections, because again, that's data to help you understand where you fit in the market. And then, don't make any emotional decisions, whether it's after a rejection, like sending an email like, hey, I spent 5 hours interviewing with you and your team. And, I felt like I was a great fit. Like, why wasn't I hired? They're never going to tell you why. It's a compliance thing. They're not going to put their company in a position to explain to you why you weren't hired, because that opens up a whole can of worms. You're not going to get feedback from them. So don't even ask, honestly. A lot of people ask for that. And I'm like, just don't even ask, because you kind of make yourself look more desperate than you need to. And you want to continue to have that value in yourself. Hey, a rejection is not personal. It's just they found someone else who they feel is a better fit, or better yet, they articulated that they're a better fit. They interviewed differently than you did. Or maybe they really are looking for something different than what you bring to the table, and that's okay too. Just not the right place, not the right time. So just continue to truck along with a positive mindset, knowing that the right fit, the right opportunity will come to you at the right time. And we have a step-by-step playbook for this. Define target companies and target roles, consistent outreach cadence, and then of course the feedback loops to help you sharpen your search. Interview success, we talked about if you're feeling burnt out from like a lengthy interview process, you're going to genuinely lack enthusiasm and they're going to know it. So make sure that you show up really prepared, confident, being able to clearly articulate your value. These are things that honestly a career coach can really help you with. I think a lot of people struggle in this area, especially for those who said, hey, I'm landing interviews, but I'm not landing offers. This could be part of the challenge. It's either you're not clearly articulating your value, you're not knowing what examples to share that are specifically aligned with that job. But furthermore, you might be showing up either underprepared to answer certain questions, or better yet, proactively answer them before they're even asked, right? Why this company? Why this job? Why right now? If you can answer those 3 questions, you're already putting yourself ahead of most interviewers or individuals who are interviewing for the same role. Okay, final poll here. I want to know, what is the biggest challenge? Well, let's see, did it pop up yet? Where is the poll? Yep. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you have in your job search right now? A, you don't have a clear job search strategy or a system in place. B, you're not getting in front of the right people, right? Hiring managers, decision makers. C, confidence. Maybe this is taking a toll on you, having a really long search that's been a lot of rejections and not a lot of positive movement. Or D, you work full time and you just don't have the man hours to dedicate to a search. That's really fair. I think this is probably where a lot of our clients at the executive level, senior management leadership level come to us and they're like, hey, I need to make a change. This is no longer the company for me. There's no more career progression, or I see the writing on the wall, layoffs are around the corner. How do I transition? But I also work full time, so I can't do this on my own. This is where we can support, but that's not to say that we don't add a ton of value to the individuals who are already looking for a job, unemployed, because we can help you reduce your search from a 9 month search down to possibly 3, 4, 5 months. Who knows, right? Every search is different, and we're very realistic about setting expectations. But if you are in demand, your skill set's in demand, and the market's calling for it, it's just about positioning and articulating your value. Having someone who's on your team who can help you spell that out and articulate it clearly is going to help Lance be successful as well. We talked about the hidden job market, right? This is where there's opportunities that are not posted online. This is where networking is really important, and being able to build those relationships early and often with hiring managers, decision makers, and recruiters across your hiring or across your target company list, as well as jobs that you're applying for. So if you found a job and applied, you should be networking as well. And then last but not least, executive recruiters who specialize in your area of expertise. When I was an executive recruiter, we specialize in accounting, finance, and IT. So I have a ton of those folks still in my LinkedIn network today. They occasionally reach out to me and say, hey, can you help me find opportunities? Because I know that's your area of expertise. So keep in mind that you're going to want to work with recruiters who potentially either reach out to you, you can build those relationships, or you can find them on LinkedIn too. There's strategies for doing that. But timing is everything. Try to apply to jobs. If you are applying to jobs that are posted, try to do that within like 24 to 48 hours of it being posted, maybe 1 week tops. Otherwise, you've already missed the boat more than likely. If they already have over 100 applicants, it's probably not an opportunity you want to waste your time on. And oftentimes you'll see those same jobs posted every like 30, 60, 90 days, 120 days. And you're like, they really haven't filled this job? No, they probably are not actually hiring for that role. It's more of a compliance post, or they're gathering data or something of that nature. Again, we talked about professional connections, but since we've already kind of talked about that, I'm going to just skip through here really quickly for the sake of time. I know we're a little over, so I appreciate everyone bearing with us. What does this look like for some of our past clients, right, that we've supported? We recently had an individual come to us who was a manager at PwC. We were able to help him land an assistant VP role, and that was over a $200K offer. We worked together for just under 80 days. It's from kickoff to landing the offer, and he is now in that new role. But 7 first interviews, that means 7 opportunities, different companies, different roles that he was able to obtain from working with us, right? We helped him position himself correctly, apply to roles, and then land 7 different opportunities, one of which he accepted an offer for, but he landed multiple offers. And this happened to be an offer that he felt was competitive and was going to help him in his career and the move that he wanted to make. So that was great. Another example, a Deloitte senior manager moving to a senior director role. He actually received a 25% increase in his compensation, which is pretty significant, especially in a competitive job market. But honestly, it's because he had been with Deloitte for quite some time, and markets changed quite a bit. So sometimes you need to make a move outside of your current organization to be able to find that type of an increase. That 2 to 3, maybe 5% merit increase every year just isn't keeping up with inflation. So sometimes making a move outside of your organization is the right move for your career. Lastly, Deloitte director moved to COO. So he moved to a smaller organization where he was able to really step into a more senior executive role. Because sometimes if you come from a big company, or you've consulted or worked with big companies, there are smaller organizations that really value that, right? A startup might need you. A mid-level organization, like in this scenario, might really need your skill set and expertise to help get them there, right? They're like, hey, we're growing. We know we need to get from here to there, but we're not there yet. We need someone who's done it, lived it, experienced it to come and support us. So that was the really, that's a big jump from director to COO. So that actually was one of those scenarios where if you know how to position yourself, you can achieve your goal. And it might seem like a big goal, but we were able to help place him simply because, and obviously a huge pay increase that went with that, but simply because we know, hey, these types of employers in this industry, in this market, value your skill set. So instead of going for the big fish, the Fortune 500 that you've always supported, who are going to pay you, pennies on the dollar for the same work, why not transition and position yourself for this mid-market, mid-level organizations, and then landed a bunch of interviews in that. So just knowing again where you bring value and how to position yourself is going to make a big difference. I want to dive into Q&A now. I want to jump back into the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat. So if anyone does have any questions from today's presentation, please feel free to drop it into the chat. We'll take a few minutes here as we wrap up. Otherwise, I'm going to skip to the next slide, and this is just the final slide, but just wanting to let everyone know, again, I mentioned this earlier, we are offering for the attendees who joined us today to take advantage of this free 1-week trial to work with us. Within that 1 week alone, you're going to get so many valuable assets that you would pay a lot of money for otherwise. A master resume that is ATS compliant and positioning you as an executive, right? So helping you understand how to position yourself and how to create a clear narrative that articulates the value that you bring. We're going to create that master resume for you. We can, of course, work together to improve it and tweak it beyond the first week, but at the very least, you're getting a really, really strong ATS compliant resume that positions you well. You're also going to get a career search strategy. Like I mentioned, we continue to refine this together as well, but at least having a really clear plan in place and a strategy to help position you. Last but not least, you're also going to get, two things actually, very important. First is your target company list, right? What industries, what companies, how to position yourself and who to target. These are companies that you can start building relationships with, looking for job opportunities at. And then finally, we're going to apply for 10 to 15 roles on your behalf. So our team is going to start sourcing job opportunities that align with that career search strategy. And obviously align with your resume and all the things that we kind of created for you in that first week. And then we always ask for your approval before we apply to jobs. But as soon as you give us a thumbs up, we're going to tailor every single resume before we apply. We're going to apply on your behalf, which saves you hours, right? And then we've actually seen clients land interviews from this first 1 week trial, even if they didn't continue with us. But it's really rare that they don't because they see the value. And actually post the 1 week, we're going to pair you with a career coach. So if you make it past the first week and you're like, yes, I definitely see the value in this, I need the help, I don't have the time, we're actually also going to pair you with a career coach who you're going to meet with on a weekly basis, who's going to help hold you accountable, help you create a clear plan for how you're going to network and do outreach, help prepare you for interviews, and ultimately help you negotiate that offer letter at the end so that you can get the most out of those offers. That is all for today's presentation. I know we're over on time, but again, thank you everyone for your time, your engagement. Really glad you're here. I hope you took away some really good information that you could start applying to your job search. And please use this link at secondladder.com/apply to at least schedule a call with us and see if the free trial is something you might be interested in, and we can take it from there. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and we hope to see you in future presentations in the coming weeks as well. Take care. Have a good day.